called sparks. Most of the last-minute preparations are a little more manageable. Testing the torch's oil regulator, painting the ice at the hockey arena, a flag raising at the athletes' village. These reindeer are being put through their paces, reluctantly, by the Sami, a semi-nomadic people from above the Arctic Circle. Celebrating their culture is a central theme for next Saturday's opening ceremonies. One arena is already busy. At the Viking Ship Hall, home to the speed skating competition, the veteran Dan Jansen, during an easygoing workout, was mum, but Golden Girl Bonnie Blair has started doling out the sound bites.
Just kind of getting on the ice, just first couple of days you kind of feel out of sync just from travel and stuff, but actually...
Along Lillehammer's pedestrian mall, the haggling over pins is already fast and furious. Norwegian sweaters are hot sellers, not to mention Olympic t-shirts, Olympic mugs, Olympic underwear, Olympic cowbells, and Olympic cheese slicers, on and on, down to the too cute Olympic mascots and the not-so-cute Olympic trolls. And most of all, Olympic prices. So far, it's been mostly hurry up and wait, although one Norwegian sport couldn't wait for the torch. Skål is always in season. Ray Gandalf, CBS News, Lillehammer.
Healthy babies come in all shapes and sizes. It doesn't matter if you're short or tall, or if this is your first baby or not. You need prenatal care even before you get pregnant. Prenatal care is health care for you and your baby. Find the small problems before they become big, so your baby isn't born too soon, or too small, or even sick. For our free magazine, write Baby, P.O. Box 70711, Washington, D.C. 20024.
Hi, I'm gonna be up here for a while, so let's chat. Sure, I was NBA Rookie of the Year, and I went to the Olympics twice. But I also played the piano, sax, and even got my college degree in mathematics. And I'm not bragging, just making a point. I couldn't have done all this on drugs. And I couldn't wear this. See, I'm also Navy Lieutenant Robinson. Now, how's that for hang time?
When you decide it's time to get on with your life, the best way to go is head on. And don't let anything stand in your way. In the Army National Guard, you'll be pushed to your limits. You'll work with some of the most sophisticated equipment on Earth. You'll be challenged. You'll be tested. You'll become the best, and you'll love it. And with this kind of experience, nothing will ever stand in your way, which benefits you, your country, and your community. The Army National Guard, Americans at their best.
Because disaster strikes someone every single day, there's always going to be one more night someone needs food, shelter, and a place to rest. Please support the American Red Cross. Because without your help, one more night could be hard to come by.
While the world-class athletes practice in Norway for the Winter Olympics, CBS News correspondent Bill Geist reports on a different kind of Olympics. And at this event, the Americans are definitely the underdogs. Here, the competition is just as fierce, but the outcome definitely sweeter.
America's best are preparing again for international competitions in skiing, sledding, skating, and baking. Meet the oft overshadowed U.S. pastry team. Donald Russell, among the best whiskers in U.S. team history. Decorating dynamo, David Brown. And Stanton Ho, stirring Stanton. You think Bonnie Blair's good? These three beat, stirred, and whisked their way past 1,500 other pastry chefs for the 3 spots on Team USA.
I used to watch The Galloping Gourmet when I was a kid.
Underdog Team USA finished a respectable 8th in the last World Cup of Pastry in France, but hopes to move up next time.
We'd love to win the medal, yeah, absolutely.
They train as hard as any Olympian for the grueling 9-hour competition. To move to the next level, they've hired a French coach, Gilles Renousson.
There is no room for mistakes. If you break one thing, everybody's going to see it and the points are going to drop. The pastries ever fall?
They do.
They melt?
They melt, or they get broken, or they shatter.
World Cup competition is so intense, another team once tried to steal their equipment. An international pastry incident.
That was an intrigue, because our equipment was so original. We hope to come back with a spot on the podium somewhere. 1, 2, or 3, but the key is definitely going to be practice, practice, and practice again.
Team USA will do battle with the titans of the pastry world, France, Austria, Switzerland, hoping to bring home the gold in something of a break with American tradition.
That's the news for this half hour.
This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
We'll celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Beatles' first trip to America.
Plus, Valentine's Day chocolates you won't forget.
Coming up on CBS This Morning with Harry Smith and Paula Zahn.
This is CBS.
Straight ahead on CBS News, Up to the Minute, wounded Bosnians are evacuated to a U.S. military hospital as world leaders ponder the thought of airstrikes in the embattled former Yugoslavia.
And Hollywood remembers a favorite leading man, actor Joseph Cotten.
Good morning from CBS News in New York. This is Up to the Minute. I'm Troy Roberts.
And I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Here's what's happening. For more than a year, the United Nations has threatened airstrikes against war-torn Yugoslavia, but today there are new warnings. United Nations Secretary General Boutros Ghali has asked for the power to order NATO bombing runs on Serb mortar positions, but President Clinton is not so sure airstrikes are the answer. The only aircraft flying to the relief of Bosnians after the weekend's attack on a Sarajevo market came in the form of outgoing flights, ferrying the wounded to American military hospitals in Germany. The U.S. Mercy flights were ordered by President Clinton, who is still wrestling with other military options. After an emergency meeting with national security advisors, the president was still hoping for peace, but holding out the possibility of airstrikes if allies go along.
Many of them remain concerned that because they have soldiers on the ground, something we don't have, that their soldiers will be retaliated against if we take action from the air. Now, that is what is animating their position. That does not mean it won't happen this time.
But even the UN's own commander in Sarajevo reacted with outrage after the attack Saturday that killed 68 people and wounded nearly 200.
Fire deliberately at a time and a place of day, which is well known, into a crowd of people who are going about their normal daily business.
Patience in Washington was beginning to wear thin as well, some calling for action instead of saber rattling.
Our current policy is not only a moral failure, it's a strategic failure, that the Serbs are paying no price for their aggression, and that it's time to get tough.
It's very well for these members of Congress to say that. They don't have any constituents on the ground there.
The new U.S. Secretary of Defense, William Perry, warned a European Security Conference that airstrikes against the Serbs could be costly. UN troops number about 28,000. They are lightly armed and surrounded by 200,000 troops who are armed and ready for war. Meanwhile, a proposed peace summit between Croatia's president and his Bosnian counterpart is off. A Croatian embassy spokeswoman says Bosnia's president has refused to attend the meeting set to take place in Rome.
The president will also deal with domestic policy today. He's scheduled to unveil his $1.5 trillion budget for 1995 to a business group in Houston, Texas. It includes increases in spending for some programs, but it also calls for the elimination of more than 100 others.
In South Africa, police are blaming factional fighting for the deaths of 9 women and 3 children. They were gunned down yesterday by 20 black gunmen at a rural settlement in the Natal province. The victims' ages ranged from 3 to 80. A police spokesman says the attack was tied to political differences between the African National Congress and the Zulu-based Inkatha Freedom Party. Another close call for Britain's Prince Charles, this time in New Zealand. In Auckland, a man wielding an aerosol can tried to spray the heir to the British throne with an unknown substance. The man got within 10 feet of Prince Charles, but the prince was not harmed. The man was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct. The attack comes less than 2 weeks after a man fired blanks from a starter pistol at the prince in Australia.
4 days after the United States lifted the trade embargo against Vietnam, Hanoi has turned over what are believed to be the remains of a dozen Americans missing from the Vietnam War. But U.S. officials say today's transfer had been planned for weeks. The United States has yet to restore diplomatic ties to Vietnam. The trial of Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison begins today in Texas. The Republican senator is accused of using her previous position as state treasurer for personal and political gain and then covering up the activity. Hutchison faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted of all charges. Hutchison has denied any wrongdoing.
In business news, threats of a strike at United Parcel Service. The Teamsters Union is calling on its 165,000 UPS workers to walk off the job today over an increase in maximum package weights. UPS has increased the allowable package weight from 70 pounds to 150 pounds. The Teamsters charge that the heavier packages will cause more injuries. UPS employees have been slapped with a court order forbidding a walkout, but the Associated Press quotes an unnamed Teamsters source who says thousands of workers will strike today anyway.
There's a new host for the Academy Awards. Oscar-winning actress and comedian Whoopi Goldberg will serve as Mistress of Ceremonies in the March 21st program. Goldberg is the first woman and the first black performer to serve as solo host of the show. She replaces Billy Crystal, who announced last month that he would not host the Oscars. Goldberg won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in 1991 for her performance in the movie Ghost. She was also nominated for her role in the film The Color Purple.
Private funeral services are being planned for actor Joseph Cotten. He died yesterday of pneumonia after a long-term illness. Cotten is probably best known for his starring role in the Orson Welles classic, Citizen Kane.
Charlie, I want you to let me work on the Chicago paper. What? Well, you said yourself you were looking for someone to do dramatic criticism. I am drunk. I want to go to Chicago. Too valuable here. Well, Charlie, there's nothing left for me to do but ask you to... All right, you can go to Chicago. Thank you.
After Citizen Kane, Cotten went on to play opposite stars like Marilyn Monroe, Bette Davis, and Ingrid Bergman. He began his career in theater, moved into film, and later starred in several television dramas. Joseph Cotten was 88.
High ideal. In education of a nation.
When's the last time you tried Ovaltine?
I drink it like every day, every other day now. I've had Nestle Quick. It just doesn't have that particular tang, I guess, the malt sensation. So Ovaltine is still my pick.
Just 2 glasses of classic Ovaltine and milk contain more than 10 essential vitamins and minerals, almost 100% of the daily recommended allowance of all these important nutrients.
I think that the malt flavor is a definite plus for Ovaltine.
Classic Ovaltine tastes great, and it's great for you.
When I dropped off the casserole for Ed's funeral, Betty told me how tight things were.
Didn't Ed have life insurance?
Not enough. She told me his funeral alone could cost over $6,000.
That is exactly why it was so important we got that extra life insurance. I wanted to be sure you were taken care of if something happened to me.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 75, the Mutual of Omaha companies have a guaranteed life insurance plan that fits you perfectly. It costs less than $1 a day, and it's guaranteed in 5 ways. You can't be turned down. There are no health questions. You don't even have to take a physical. Your benefits will never decrease. Your payments will never increase, and it can't be canceled ever. Call this toll-free number for free information. Review it in the privacy of your own home. There's no risk or obligation. Call today for your enrollment packet. 1-800-218-5511. That's 1-800-218-5511.
When do you need immediate itch relief?
When I go to bed, my itching will start, getting real bad.
Get effective immediate relief with new Gold Bond medicated anti-itch cream.
The itching almost immediately stops.
Gold Bond Medicated Cream's unique dual-action medicated formula contains what no other leading anti-itch cream has. 2 proven pain relievers that stop the itch and stop the pain on contact.
Gold Bond Cream has helped me to get a good night's sleep.
New Gold Bond Medicated Anti-Itch Cream.
Stock prices around the world are falling hard and fast this morning, all because of that 96-point plunge in the Dow Industrials on Wall Street.
Which raises the question, will we see another Blue Monday when the market opens this morning? Our guest this morning is Bill LeFevre, and he has some thoughts on that. Why the reaction? Alan Greenspan announced several days in advance that the interest rates would be going up.
He announced it, and they didn't believe him. And when the truth came, and when the event occurred, it took them by surprise. Also, it was on a Friday, and there's a tendency for people to leave early on Friday. I think many of the decision makers were not there when that big drop came later in the day. So my guess is that this morning there'll be more selling, but I think today you'll see some stabilization come in.
So when the bell rings at the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street this morning, you're going to see a furious selling?
It's hard to quantify it, Troy. Let's put it this way. A lot of people were unaware of the 96 points until after the market closed. Some of those people will want to sell this morning. Now, when you say furious, I mean, let's put maybe 50, 75 points in a hurry in the first hour, and then there ought to be some sort of stabilization come in, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see the first hour the worst hour.
Will the trading volume drop off? There's been such high volume in recent
Well, we've been running well over 300 million, and we'll probably have Fridays with 377 million. We'll probably exceed that today. But I think as the week wears on, then the volume will contract, which is a positive thing for the investor too.
What is your best advice for the small-time investor, the average investor who doesn't want to lose?
Let's go 2 ways. Those who got out of CDs and whatnot and bought mutual funds in the not too distant past, I wouldn't sell this morning. I wouldn't redeem. On the other hand, if you're courageous and you have some cash that you haven't yet invested, this morning may be one of the best buys that you'll see in 1994.
Is this only the beginning of higher and higher interest rates? The party over?
Look, the purpose of Greenspan's lowering the rates as he did since 1990 was to get us out of a recession. We're now in a pretty good recovery, I think. And it's normal that interest rates stop going down and then begin to tick up. Now, at this point in 87, which is what people are worried about, the funds rate was well above 7 on the way to 8. Here we are 3. They've gone up from 3 to 3 1/4. Other than people with variable mortgages, I don't know who's going to feel it this morning. I mean, it's a very small increase. You may get 2, 3 others. In other words, the 3 could become 3. It is 3 1/4. It could become 3 1/2 by the middle of the year, and maybe one more tick. But I think that's it.
What stocks will do well in the immediate future? What are we looking at?
Well, tomorrow you're going to get General Motors earnings. They were down pretty hard on Friday. I think that might be one of the better stocks because, this is a company that hadn't made money in several years. Suddenly they're in the profit side. People want to buy the cars again. So, yeah, GM on the opening.
Okay, well, we heard it here, GM. All right, thanks, Bill LeFevre.
In other news this morning, the main goal of shuttle mission number 60 is in jeopardy. Technical problems have delayed deployment of the $13.5 million Wake Shield satellite. It was intended to be used to make the world's first perfect computer semiconductors, a prospect that tremendously excites scientists. The satellite can still grow semiconductors, but they won't be as of high quality as if they were grown in open space. If the control system can be fixed, the Wake Shield satellite may still be launched later this morning.
Figure skater Tonya Harding's Olympic future remains uncertain this morning.
But the U.S. Figure Skating Association's president is urging the skating star to go before a panel and give her side of the story in the attack on her rival Nancy Kerrigan. This morning, two people who are very important in Harding's life have agreed to be interviewed by CBS News. Her father, Al, and the woman who has helped take Harding to the top. CBS News correspondent Connie Chung spoke with them on the CBS News broadcast Eye to Eye.
She's been Tonya Harding's coach since Tonya was 3 years old. But the job description doesn't simply end at figure skating.
Since no one can find Tonya, are you willing to speak for her? Can you tell us how she's doing? How she's holding up? Can you fellas take care of the house when we're done?
She knows Tonya Harding better than almost anyone else in the world.
I know Tonya. I know when she's exaggerating. I know when she's telling the truth. I know when she's feeling upset about things. She doesn't have to say anything. I know by the look of her face and her voice and how she holds her body. I know Tonya extremely well. And Tonya had nothing to do with the plot.
You believe that?
Oh, I know that. I know Tonya.
Tonya's innocent. She won
Except for a brief appearance before reporters when the news first broke of the attack on Nancy Kerrigan, Diane Rawlinson has been silent.
Tonya's truly her own person.
But she and her husband Dennis, a longtime advisor to Tonya, who is also one of her attorneys, are now speaking out. Do you think that Tonya Harding should go to the Olympics?
Tonya has worked all of her life to go to the Olympics. She has not been charged with a crime. I think she's a victim in this case, just like Nancy is. Of course, Nancy was attacked, and it was horrible, just incredibly unbelievable that all of this has happened.
So we'll just wait and see what to...
In a very real sense, these are the people the Rawlinsons have to convince. A special committee named by the U.S. Figure Skating Association. They will meet again tomorrow and may decide Tonya Harding's fate by the weekend.
And even if they were to file charges this weekend, Tonya has 30 days to respond, which takes us past the time she'll be skating in Lillehammer. It would mean that they would not be in a position to take any sanction action against Tonya until after the Olympics.
But even if the Skating Association buys what Dennis Rawlinson is saying, it may also listen to this man, Ron Hovitt, the attorney for Tonya Harding's ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly. He says Tonya's Olympic dream already has been shattered.
She's worked very hard for years, and it was a dream both of Jeff and Tonya's. But they threw that dream away in December of last year. They threw it away when they agreed to this plot on Nancy Kerrigan.
I can understand an attorney trying to do the best for his client to clear his name, but what that has to do with whether Tonya is on the Olympic team or not, I fail to understand, and I believe that lines of propriety were crossed.
Well, the first time we took her fishing, she was 2 weeks old.
It all seems light years away from her beginnings. In his first television interview, her father, Al Harding, shared his memories of Tonya. They were close, went fishing and hunting together. Her first catch was almost as big as she was.
We went fishing and we ate what we caught. We went hunting and we ate what we shot.
Despite abject poverty, Al Harding was determined to find a way for her to compete with other skaters, even off the ice.
I thought, well, time she had a mink coat. I went and hawked my car, bought her the full-length mink coat.
You hawked your car?
Yeah.
To buy Tonya a full-length mink paws coat?
Mm-hmm.
And how old was she?
11 or 12, maybe 13.
Why'd you do that for Tonya?
Because I loved her.
You didn't have money? She was only 11 years old?
But other competitors had mink coats.
At home, though, back then there were other signs of a pattern that would shadow Tonya Harding to this day.
Tonya's mother was very controlling when Tonya was young, and she went right from that relationship to a relationship with Jeff. And I think that may be why she's so stubborn at times, because she really does want to be her own person, and she's always had a control factor. Just before Tonya and Jeff got married, I stopped teaching Tonya because I felt like I had no control over the situation.
Later, when Diane took Tonya back as a student, One condition was that Jeff stay away from Tonya's competitions. On the ice, Tonya Harding is pressing on. Diane Rawlinson says she's performing some of her most difficult jumps and spins with relative ease.
When Tonya gets to the ice, it is like she has finally found her refuge, her retreat. I believe when she gets to the ice, it's like she has finally found some shelter for a moment.
And across the country, Nancy Kerrigan skates on as well. And if all the pressure and commotion are bothering her, she didn't let it show to Greg Gumbel of CBS Sports.
I always like mysteries, so it's kind of like reading a book. You can't wait to get to the end, see what happens.
Gumbel interviewed Kerrigan for a CBS special to be broadcast this Saturday night.
Have you kept up with everything that's been happening and been reported by the newspapers and over the air out of Portland, or do you just ignore it all?
Well, it's really hard to ignore because when I'm done skating, I go home, and after my workouts in the pool and things, I'm watching TV, and it shows up all the time, so hard to ignore.
At this stage, would you object to Tonya being on the team?
That's for someone else's decision, not mine. I'm just going to compete and do what I've been working for.
And what about 13-year-old Michelle Kwan? Olympic officials are taking the unusual step of sending her to Norway as an alternate, just in case, as Tonya waits.
I go day by day. Hopefully everything's going to work out. God will take over and he'll make everything right.
Tonya's life has always been skating. You might as well, God forbid, take her legs away from her. Her whole life is the opportunity to skate in the Olympics.
Diane and Dennis Rawlinson have known Tonya Harding for a long time. And here's one of the things they know. When everything seems to be against her, she triumphs.
When things are not running smoothly, Tonya seems to skate better. When she's upset, she skates better. And right now, she's fighting for her life.
Do you think it would break Tonya's heart if she weren't able to go to the Olympics?
Yes. And mine.
Are you still planning on going to the Olympics?
Yes.
That's still a goal?
Yes.
A lot of people are saying to drop out?
I don't know. I don't listen to what other people say.
We'll be back after this.
This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
In business, a lot can happen. If you want to keep up every week, you have a choice. Not Forbes, not Fortune. You can read Business Week, or you can read a week of the Wall Street Journal. Either way, you'll find out all you need to know. The question is, how much time are you willing to spend in the process? Business Week is designed for busy people. One look at the cover and you'll know exactly where to turn inside. A quick scan of the contents page and you'll have all the events of the week that interest you. Business Week does more than inform. It entertains. With stories that are compellingly told in both words and pictures. If you want to keep up with what's going on out there every week all year long, there's more than one way to go about it. The choice is yours.
Now is the time to subscribe to Business Week, because right now you could get 28 issues of Business Week for the low rate of $25.95, a savings of more than 66% off the cover price. It's all the business news you need every week, the kind of value real success is built on. And with your paid subscription, we'll send you this compact cordless data bank free. Much more than just a calculator, the data bank stores all important phone numbers and even tells time. Now that's handy. Remember, it's free with your paid subscription to Business Week. Here's how to subscribe.
Subscribe today and get all the week's business news delivered to your home or office. Just call 1-800-762-6666 and we'll send you 28 issues of Business Week for only $25.95. That's just 93 cents an issue. This low rate saves you over $51 off the cover price. The data bank is free with your paid subscription. Call now 1-800-762-6666.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Paula Zahn. Book superstores are causing problems for the old-time neighborhood bookstore. We're going to show you why.
Then our Olympic preview takes a look at the cross-country skiing competition.
We'll also show you some delicious Valentine's Day treats you won't forget.
Coming up on CBS This Morning with Harry Smith and Paula Zahn. What if this was your child? These parents say a program of punishment is their kid's only hope. But is it treatment or torture? Eye to Eye, Thursday at a special time.
Watch CBS This Morning. It's breakfast for your head.
Here's the weather forecast for today, Monday, February 7th. Winter storm watches are in effect from Washington State to Montana and from California to Wyoming. Snow pounds much of those areas. In North Dakota yesterday, wind chills plunged as low as 60 below zero. Mainly dry in the east. If you travel, pack warm clothes and a winter survival kit. And the temperature map shows more tolerable conditions further south. 40s and 50s from the mid-Atlantic to the Central Plains. 70-degree highs in the southwest to the southeast. In South Texas and South Florida, look for 80-degree readings.
In up-to-the-minute sports, golf fans at Pebble Beach Sunday were treated to a touch of yesteryear when a retired golfer returned to the scene of his last victory to capture the National Pro-Am. While Brian Gumbel's misguided tee shot slugged a seagull, amusing members of his foursome, Johnny Miller was crafting his first tournament win since winning here 7 years ago. Miller took the lead when Tom Watson's putt on 17 came up just short of the cup, and when he dropped his final putt on 18 for a final round 74 and 7 under 281, the jubilant Miller celebrated his long-awaited triumph. In the NBA, New Jersey's Chris Morris provided the heroics in regulation, stripping the Spurs, Vinny Del Negro in the final seconds before jamming home the tying basket. In overtime, Kenny Anderson worked the pick and roll with Derek Coleman to perfection, pulling the Nets even at 102 with 21 seconds to play. After being fouled with 4 seconds remaining, David Robinson hit 2 free throws, giving San Antonio the lead. And when Anderson's desperation heave missed the mark, the Spurs escaped with a hard-fought 104-102 victory. In Phoenix, with the Suns protecting a 3-point lead in the closing seconds, Kevin Johnson's clotheslined the Bulls' Steve Kerr with a flagrant foul, giving Chicago 2 free throws in the ball as the injured Charles Barkley looked on. After Kerr converted both foul shots, Scottie Pippen got a chance to win it, but his attempt went long, sending the Bulls to an 89-88 defeat. Now let's take a look at this morning's scoreboard.
Are you a good driver who's been dropped, been bounced from one insurance company to another, or refused coverage because of a couple of tickets, accidents, or suspended driver's license? If you're tired of the runaround, call Vern Funk Insurance. We can help. We do international driver's licenses, auto insurance, even if you don't own a car, and have competitive rates for young drivers. For the best price, call Vern Funk Insurance Agency in Seattle, 634-2500 or 1-800-654-SR22. And remember, honk when you go by Vern Funk.
Miller Genuine Draft presents the Seattle International Sportsman's Exposition in the Kingdom. Get ready for 3 massive outdoor shows in one. A world-class sport fishing show, the incredible Hunt 94, and everything for serious fly fishing. Meet hunting and fishing experts and book your next dream vacation. The Northwest Mega Show, the 18th Annual Seattle International Sportsman's Exposition, February 9th through 13th at the Kingdom. Get weekday discount coupons wherever Miller Genuine Draft is sold.
Watch Face to Face, an adoption story, beginning Monday at 11 on KIRO News Channel 7.
I don't know what it means. All I know is it's cancer. I mean, what about my kids, my job? What's it called? Cancer Lifeline. Yeah, it would help to talk to someone who knows about all this.
Babies can't tell you how important their good health is, but we can. Every baby deserves a healthy start, but not every baby gets one. You can help. Join the KIRO March of Dimes Walk America. Form a team, call and sign up today. Walk on April 23rd for healthier babies.
The Olympic Winter Games come to KIRO TV Channel 7 Saturday.
Here are the topics of this morning's edition of America's Asking. A city that once hosted the Winter Olympics, the space shuttle, and a singer whose clothes were a hit.
CBS News answers your questions on America's Asking. Hello, I'm Ernie Anastas. This morning we begin with a question about a city under siege.
My name's Mark. I'm from New York City, and my question is, what are the United States government and the Western European governments doing to stop the siege of Sarajevo?
Artillery and gunfire have rocked the Bosnian city of Sarajevo for almost 2 years. Negotiations resume later this week to find a peaceful end to the civil war that has killed thousands. So far, the U.S. has limited its role to providing humanitarian aid while backing a United Nations plan for airstrikes against the Serbs who are laying siege to the city. The Clinton administration, however, does not favor a peace plan backed by European leaders that would carve up Sarajevo and the rest of Bosnia and require the possible commitment of U.S. ground troops as peacekeepers. Our next question is about the space shuttle and its return to Earth set for later this week.
Hi, my name is Gina Triplett. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'd like to know, how long does it take the space shuttle, once it starts its descent back to Earth, how long does it take it to get from outer space to the Earth?
The landing gear is now down.
The space shuttle's return to Earth takes about an hour. The trip begins with the firing of braking rockets slowing the shuttle from a speed of 1,700 miles an hour. Its engines off, computers bring the shuttle, now a giant glider, to within 50,000 feet of the Earth. That's where the shuttle commander takes over and lands the spacecraft. On the ground, the astronauts spent another half hour powering down the shuttle, attaching cooling systems and stowing gear before they once again set foot on Mother Earth. Now a viewer from Tennessee called in with a question about a singer who rocketed to fame in the early 80s.
I was just wondering, whatever happened to British rock star Boy George?
After recording the theme song for the movie The Crying Game, published reports proclaimed that Boy George was back. But George told CBS This Morning's Paula Zahn that he never really went away.
I've been making records for the last 5 years. I've released 3 solo albums. I've had quite a lot of success in Europe. I've had some success on the dance charts in America, but I've had a few problems with my record company here, not releasing my records and things like that.
And did you know that Boy George's real name is George O'Dowd? Thought you'd like to know that. If you have a question for America's Asking, you can call us at 1-800-283-2277. I'm Ernie Anastas for CBS News.
That's the news for this half hour.
We're up to the minute.
This is CBS.
Straight ahead on CBS News, up to the minute, humanitarian aid now, but it could be airstrikes later against Serbs in Bosnia.
And she's the talk of the town, any town. But Tonya's not talking. We'll tell you why.
Good morning from CBS News in New York. This is Up to the Minute. I'm Troy Roberts.
And I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Here's what's happening. UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali is now asking NATO to give him the option to launch airstrikes in Bosnia. A number of NATO members, among them Belgium, France, and Italy, say airstrikes should be considered. Britain at this point is opposed. The United States, meantime, is providing some humanitarian aid to Sarajevo. CBS News Chief European Correspondent Tom Fitton reports.
An airlift ordered by President Clinton brought 58 injured Bosnians to Germany for treatment at an American military hospital. Most were victims of Saturday's massacre. That seemed to be the limit of support for the people of Sarajevo, who went about the grim business of identifying and burying the victims. Their grief was compounded by the inability of the United Nations to name or take any action against the perpetrators of the mass slaughter. UN officials who inspected the scene where a large mortar shell killed 68 people and wounded nearly 200 agreed it was a monstrous crime.
I cannot describe it in words. It's terrible. It's simply terrible.
They also agreed it was not a stray shell, but one aimed to cause maximum casualties.
Fired deliberately at a time and a place of day, which is well known, into a crowd of people who are going about their normal daily business.
But they lacked the technical means to pinpoint where the shell came from.
It is possible that it originated from either side, and we cannot say with any degree of certainty from which side the mortar bomb originated.
That gave an excuse for governments reluctant to become more deeply involved to take no immediate military action. And it left the Bosnian Serbs and the Bosnian government, as usual, blaming each other.
They've been lying to the world for the last 2 years. Concentration camps, they denied. Rape camps, they denied. 200,000 people killed, they deny.
They are abusing the suffering of people in Sarajevo for the propaganda purposes.
The suffering is seemingly endless. Anxious to do something, the US, the UN, and the Europeans all rushed in to help treat and evacuate the casualties. But even as the grievously injured were being evacuated from Sarajevo, the well-marked medical convoy was almost hit by a shell. Whoever the unknown gunner was, he couldn't resist a parting shot. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
Now, any order for airstrikes in Bosnia must come from NATO. The United States cannot act alone. And even though world leaders are universally condemning Saturday's slaughter in Sarajevo, President Clinton says they have reason to be hesitant about participating in airstrikes. Before leaving Washington yesterday, the president called on members of Congress to tone down their calls for attacks on Serb targets.
But I just want to try to explain why there's more reluctance on the part of some of the Europeans than there is on the part of the United States, because they do have troops on the ground, and they are worried about some retaliation coming to those troops.
The president is now in Texas for a 2.5-day trip to promote his health care program and to do some fundraising. He got a warm welcome upon his arrival in Houston. Then he went on to a Democratic fundraiser where he helped his party raise nearly $2 million. Today, he'll formally present Congress with a budget proposal for fiscal 1995. It's a $1.5 trillion plan, which calls for the abolition of 115 programs and funding cuts to more than 300 others.
Also in Texas, U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison goes on trial today. She's charged with misusing her former office of state treasurer and then trying to cover it up. Prosecutors say Hutchison ran political operations out of the Treasury using state employees and computers on state time. Hutchison won a landslide election to replace the seat left by now Treasury Secretary Lloyd Bentsen. She has denied doing anything wrong.
The president of the U.S. Figure Skating Association is urging Tonya Harding to tell her side of the story to a panel investigating the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. But Harding is not talking, except to her lawyers, and now it's up to Olympic officials to decide if she'll skate in Lillehammer. CBS News correspondent Vicki Mabry reports.
While Tonya Harding remains silent in Portland, the fate of her Olympic dreams now moves to Norway, where the U.S. Olympic Committee is considering convening within 2 weeks to decide if Harding should remain on the team.
We're considering an administrative board, and that board will consider all the information, plus give Ms. Harding, if it is formed, the opportunity not just to appear, but to present any information that she thinks is appropriate.
The U.S. Figure Skating Association decided that Harding knew enough about the attack on rival Nancy Kerrigan to bring her before a disciplinary panel. Harding has 30 days to respond, and unless she chooses to answer sooner, that hearing will not take place before the Olympics.
The panel has charged our special attorney up in Portland to really continue with the process of investigation, and that'll be ongoing until the hearing March 9th or 10th.
So while the USFSA gathers evidence and the USOC deliberates, others assume that short of a confession or conviction, Harding will stay on the team. But most agree the issue is due process, and the consensus is, without time for Tonya Harding to prove her innocence in court before the Olympic Games, she probably will be on the ice in Norway. Vicki Mabry, CBS News, Colorado Springs.
With or without Tonya Harding, the Olympic Games begins in less than a week, and the Olympic torch is now in Norway. Athletes from 66 nations are taking turns carrying it toward Lillehammer, where the final runner, a ski jumper, will open the Games this Saturday.
United Parcel Workers may go on strike today, even though a federal judge has ordered them to stay on the job. The Teamsters Union is urging its 165,000 UPS employees to walk off to protest a jump in maximum package weight from 70 to 150 pounds. The union says the heavier packages will cause injuries. Out where everything is weightless, NASA says it'll try again today to release an orbiting space station that just doesn't seem to want to be deployed. Astronauts aboard the shuttle Discovery have been trying to fix the Wake Shield satellite for 2 days. If it cannot be deployed today, it will remain outside on the shuttle's robot arm, and any results from the experiments planned will be considered degraded. For the first time in 2 decades, there's a change coming to the Scholastic Aptitude Test. College-bound high schoolers taking the SAT next month will be allowed to use calculators. The exam's writers say it will better test thinking skills. Critics, however, call the revisions cosmetic and say they do not address what they call an underlying bias against women and minorities. No fair.
I wish I had one
Me
of those
too.
where I took that test.
Oh well.
Ahead, our guests talk about the nuclear threat lurking behind the closed borders of North Korea.
Cheers for Charles. The prince keeps a stiff upper lip as another commoner gets too close for comfort.
Their greatest desire was to have a child, so they turned to the best.
This is a world-class doctor.
I've made hundreds of babies. He gave them their dream, along with a nightmare they could never forget.
There have been rumors. Dr. Jacobson may have used his own sperm.
Who is the father of their child, and how many women did he violate?
He is going to pay.
Inspired by actual events, Melissa Gilbert,
I want to see him face to face.
George Sunza.
I am not.
Are you a good driver who's been dropped, been bounced from one insurance company to another, or refused coverage because of a couple of tickets, accidents, or suspended driver's license? If you're tired of the runaround, call Vern Funk Insurance. We can help. We do international driver's licenses, auto insurance, even if you don't own a car, and have competitive rates for young drivers. For the best price, call Vern Funk Insurance Agency in Seattle, 634-2500 or 1-800-654-SR22. And remember, honk when you go by Vern Funk.
Just when you thought the prices couldn't get any better at National Furniture Rentals, we come out with a special you won't believe. Get 1 month free rent when you open an account this month at National Furniture. Plus, when you rent to own, you can trade in your free month certificate for your final 2 months payments. Wow! National Furniture, where your credit is not a problem. Seattle, Tacoma, Bremerton, and Everett. Tell them National Ned sent ya.
The Gold Rush is on at all participating Jack in the Box restaurants. Here's your chance to strike it rich with a trip for 2 to the 1994 Winter Games in Lillehammer, Norway. So come into Jack in the Box and try the new chicken mushroom sandwich. While you're there, enter for your chance to win the trip for 2 and see the 1994 Winter Games in Lillehammer. Trip provided by travel professionals of Mercer Island